Good evening, everyone. I'm the board chairman, Scott Lambert, and at this time I would like to call to order the November 13th, 2024 East Whiteland Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Please rise and read the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce our attendees here at the table. On my immediate right is Vice Chairman Richard Orlow, and next to Richard is Supervisor Peter Fixler. On my immediate left is Bernadette Kearney, our solicitor, and next to Bernadette is Steve Brown, our manager. I'm actually going to jump into agenda number 5, board motions immediately, and then we'll move back to the board briefings. So if we move to number 5, everyone, and John, you can lead off regarding the motion to advertise for a vehicle.
Yes, we are asking for approval to advertise to sell truck number 320. It's 2012 at 550.
Okay, nothing special on it, so Rich, would you like to make a motion?
Make a motion to advertise truck 320 on municipal and 2012 F550 dump truck. When you do advertise these on municipal, do you put a minimum on there? Okay. What is?
These trucks we keep around 11, 12,000.
Okay. All right.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passes. And Dave, if you can give us any oversight on the budget to be advertised.
Do you want me to go to the budget this point, or do you want me to
Yeah, there's two.
There's two.
One is to hear Dave make a presentation. Whoops, sorry. There's two actions. One is to really listen to Dave make a presentation, and then if the board is willing, this 5B is to make a motion to advertise it for, make a motion to advertise it for final approval next month. So the idea is to listen, give it its preliminary approval tonight, and then 5B is for advertising for next month.
Okay, so because I'm going out of order, why don't you hold off on your presentation and we'll go back to 5B as far as that motion once we hear from you in the event that there's something we don't like. The other piece moving into 5C, Catherine, in terms of motion to advertise for the open space tax referendum that was just passed.
You might have to turn those off versus.
No. There we go. Can you hear me okay? Sorry about that. The open space tax referendum were preliminarily successful on the recent ballot. And so the next step in this process is that the Board of Supervisors does actually need to implement those two taxes, because the selection was for a multifaceted approach, which includes the real estate tax and also the earned income tax. Just a reminder, the earned income tax component of this is only applicable to township residents. It does not apply to those non-residents who might work in the township. So there's two separate motions here to authorize advertisement for those ordinances. And I'll just mention here, we had discussed prior to the start of the regular meeting that due to some requirements from DCED that we file these ordinances by December 1st. We also have additional advertising requirements that these be advertised 3 times, which a typical ordinance does not get advertised that many times. But since this is for taxation, we're looking at a November 29th date for a special meeting just for the purpose of considering these 2 ordinances. And that would be for virtual, and also there would be an in-person attendance option, and that would be at 9:30 in the morning.
Okay, so at this point in time, I guess if we could have a motion to advertise for those dates.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion to advertise for the date of November 29th at 9:30 a.m. for a hearing on the passing of the ordinance for the EIT and RET in regards to the open space referendum.
Do I have a
Ordinance
second?
364-24 and 363-2024.
So to authorize advertising tonight.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, and to authorize advertising tonight.
A second?
Can I, before we should ask for any comments on this since we,
Okay.
any public comment before we finalize? Okay.
Okay.
I apologize, I didn't have my mic on.
What do we need, second now, or this?
Yeah,
is
if you can second that?
Yes, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so passed.
Okay.
Now, go back to agenda item number 2. Let's start this over.
You doing the budget now or later?
No, we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. We held executive sessions on October 16th at 10 a.m., on October 28th, 2024 at 3:15, and again on November 13th at 4:30, in which we discuss personnel, real estate, and legal issues. Now, Catherine, if you can give us a little update on our grant process and updates.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this will also appear later on the agenda as a resolution to authorize application for an LSA grant application for Down East Park ADA and stormwater management improvements. So I don't have any other things to announce as far as that's concerned, but we will be submitting for this grant application, which doesn't require any match from the township. And I think that there were maybe something else to announce as well.
Right. In a surprise move, I would like to note heard an email that I received last. It's addressed to me on behalf of the governor, Josh Shapiro. I'm writing to congratulate you on a grant award amount of $1 million from the Community Conservation Partnership Program by the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, DCNR. Funding for the project comes from a variety of sources, including the state Keystone Recreation, Park and Recreation, Park and Conservation, Environmental Stewardship Fund, ATV, Snowmobile Management Restricted Account, and the Pennsylvania Heritage Area Program, and the Federal Land Grant, Water Conservation Fund, and Recreation Trail. The department is committed to building community conservation partnerships with local governments and nonprofit organizations to protect critical natural areas and open space, develop greenways and trails, provide quality park, recreation, conservation opportunities, and to improve the quality of life in Pennsylvania. Your DCNR grant award is in a recognition of outstanding recreation and conservation work that should be shared with your community. DCNR staff will be in contact with you regarding the project coordination. I wish you much success in implementing your project, which will contribute to the quality of life for many communities. Signed by Cindy Adams Dunn, Secretary. So
Very nice,
That's fantastic.
very nice.
I'd like to provide to you a check for $1 million.
Great.
I think you should give that to David.
Very nice.
Don't spend it all in one place.
You don't have to worry about that.
Oh my God, it is a check.
And in addition to DCNR,
You got one too.
I would like to thank our Chester County Commissioners who have advocated for this project and have helped us process. I'd also like to thank our friends in Harrisburg, Delta Consultants, who spent a lot of time in putting together this grant proposal. Maggie, I know you're out there. Rich, I know you're out there somewhere listening, but this is kind of exciting. And that in conjunction with a previous grant award that we received for $870,000 from the county will allow us to put $1.87 million of grant money towards the acquisition of the Schiffer property. So that in conjunction with what is occurring with the passing of the tax referendum is pretty exciting. And, you know, thank you guys for supporting all of this and all the efforts Kathleen has done. Catherine has done a tremendous amount of work on it as well, and everyone on the staff. So, again, thank you.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, very good.
I just made a birdie putt. I get a text message and I look at it. Serious? Anyway, we'll get back to the program here. Catherine, any other thoughts that you have? I mean, you've been involved with this and your thoughts.
No, I think just that we were really impressed by DCNR going even higher than Chester County, and I think really reflects the support that this community has for acquisition. So we should keep at it.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Peter, Rich, any thoughts?
Very nice, very helpful.
Surprising and wonderful. Take some tax burden off our citizens.
I mean, the nice part, we were expecting about 800-ish, so it's another 200 that wasn't expected, right? Yeah.
Okay, moving on to item 2C, Park and Rec updates with Larry.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hard to follow that up. That's so exciting, and I'm very excited about all the possibilities from that and the passing of the open space referendum. But to give a brief update of what's happening within Parks and Rec World programming and within our current parks, we had our trunk or treat at the end of October. We partnered with a Katie Markley parent-teacher organization, and that was in their parking lot. It was a fantastic turnout. We had about 150, 200 people come out. First time working with KDM PTO, and hopefully it's just the beginning of many things yet to come. We are also working to replace some of the damaged equipment in Bryn Aaron's multiple parks. Some damage had occurred over time, and we're working to replace a slide and a jungle gym. So to be determined of when those things will be replaced, but they are works in progress. And finally, big thing is we are finishing up Backton Hill Phase 1. Currently, Backton Hill Phase 1 is open. That included the construction of the park, the trail, and everything that you see up to this point. We are working to finish the water basins for water retention purposes, the stormwater management. Public Works is doing a fantastic job in finishing that process up that needs to be closed out by the end of the year due to current grant applications. And after that is finished, looking into 2025 and beyond, we're going to look to implement Phase 2, which is kind of final design for some of the miscellaneous items such as the bathroom, some ancillary items around the walking trail, and any potential fields or up in the meadow in the center of Backton Hill. And other than that, we're looking forward to 2025 and finalizing our event calendar to get that out as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. Any questions from anyone? Sure, if you can come up to the mic.
Deb Mobile, 42 Village Way. Look at the screen. I was wondering, and I thought I had heard rumor, kind of lost track about why it might have been nixed, but was it ever considered that a skateboard park be put in Backton Hill? Because there are some gorgeous skateboard parks out on 100, which is part of West Whiteland. Montgomery County has a fantastic one, and it is something, you know, we've got like lots of soccer fields and baseball fields and this kind of field and that kind of field. That's one area of young people concern, that when you provide a healthy and designated area for them, I mean, even Downingtown has one. It's kind of pitiful when you go and see some of these other ones. But was it considered before? And if so, why was it not included?
Larry, this was before your time. I can talk, being on the Park and Rec Board, the liaison. We ended up under Phase 1 of the park. We looked at a lot of different options, and we had surveys taken with the community, and we narrowed it down to certain items, partly due to the size of the property being somewhat small. The second thing was the cost of some of the projects. And I know the skate park was tentatively to be put in the southeast corner of the property, but we had to put in the draining situation there, the storm water basin down there, and so that kind of took up that area. But you know, there's still a Phase 2 that needs to be created, so you never know.
Well, I would certainly like that to be reconsidered by the park, or perhaps in one of the other park locales, that, you know, some of the fields. As I said, it's a population, boys, girls, young, old. You know, you go to the local skate parks and you've got my sons who are years old and my youngest grandchildren who are out there. And I think it's definitely worth a thought. I also think, and I've heard others address it here, that a cricket field needs to be considered, because we do have a growing population of immigrants who, for that's their big sport. But it's not just them. I hear about it now in the news. It's becoming a more public thing. And again, I think the more diversity that we have in physical activities, the more we promote our park system. And I thank you for your work.
Well, being that you're on the Park and Rec, you know what some of the scenarios were that we ended up looking at and will continue to look at. So, you know, I think you need to, you know, make these comments to the Park and Rec Board too, and, you know, we'll talk it through.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for volunteering on
I
that.
have to start going to those meetings.
So fortunately,
I gotta get back in the swing of things.
there is a cricket field overused in West Whiteland at the Exton Park trailhead over there.
Oh, is
That's
it?
very, very active, yes. Yeah, it does take up quite a bit of space too, so it's big. I mean, if it's going to be regulation, I guess.
I only
And-
know down that.
Okay, okay, all
Didn't
right.
look that big on down that.
Okay.
Don, any other comments out there on Zoom? All right. Larry, thank you.
Thank you.
Zach, I guess you want to give a quick overview of our recycling for election signs?
Yeah, we've talked about this a couple times. The previous meetings, it's mostly I guess a PSA or just call attention to it. We do have bins here to recycle election signs, yard signs. The county program facilities will be by to pick it up. I think unless it's been emptied today, it was already overflowing after the weekend. It sounds like it's still full. It's been a great program. They said they got a way bigger reaction and more use out of it than they even hoped for. So I think it'll likely be something we see in the future. They were very complimentary of the bins that Public Works put together and wanted to take pictures and publicize it. I got to give them props. So yeah, it's been a great success so far. So hopefully they'll keep at that and add locations throughout the county.
I have a question.
It's open through the 18th, so Monday.
I have a question on that. Was that promoted on social media through our new company?
I believe that it was. The county's been promoting it. We've been doing what we can to get the word out, and we'll take other types of signs too if you see them around. Not that you should snag other people's signs, but anything like that will be accepted.
Zach's car wash we can take? Okay. The next thing, if Greg Davis could come up and kind of give us a little bit of Greg Davis, oh God, that's somebody. Greg Lewis, if you could come up and talk about the countywide burn ban, in
Thank
which
you, Mr.
we've
Chairman.
got some live activities that have occurred.
Thank you. Just so everybody is aware, effective at 5 p.m. on Sunday, October 27th, 2024, Chester County instituted a countywide temporary 30-day burn ban due to the lack of rain for the foreseeable future. All open burning as defined in the attached resolution is banned until Monday, November 25th, 2024. I just want to kind of highlight what open burning means. Is defined as the ignition and subsequent burning of any combustible material, garbage, leaves, grass, twigs, litter, paper, vegetative material involved with land clearing or any sort of debris outdoors in a burn barrel, screened or unscreened, fire ring, or on the ground. The use of propane or gas stoves, charcoal grills, or the use of tobacco in any form is not covered under this burn ban. Campfires are allowed in fire rings that confine and contain the campfire only in designated state, federal, or Department of Environmental Protected licensed campground. So, in short, there is no urban burning countywide. There have been numerous large brush fires over the county the last several weeks, 10 plus acres. So I cannot stress enough to the residents of this township, no open burning of any fashion allowed at any time. Cannot be in a fire pit unless you're in a licensed campground. We've received a lot of phone calls over the last several weeks about fireworks. The county did not ban fireworks because they cannot ban those. But the message that we have given to the residents is if this is a spark, we're discouraging the use of that. As far as penalty, a person who violates this resolution commits a summary offense and shall, upon conviction, be sentenced to pay a fine of not more than $100 for the first offense, $200 for the second offense, and $300 for the third and subsequent to this. So anybody in the room or on Zoom, we're discouraging any open burning, fireworks, anything that emits spark.
What about a chimenea? Solo stove?
Is it propane?
No.
I would say no. I would say no. And even with the, in
I
here,
know
it's-
the answers to these, Greg. I'm just
yeah,
trying to.
I get it. I get it. And I would also stress in here, it says you can use propane or gas stoves. If it's anywhere near anything combustible, I would absolutely. I would just like to highlight two events that the fire department's been involved in over the last week. We did have a fire, small fire outside of a commercial property on Lancaster Avenue early last week. It was a commercial property. They had several hay bales as decoration out front of the commercial property. We got the 911 call. We pulled up and fire was going from the hay bales up the front of the structure, and it was just getting ready to impede the soffit. But due to quick response, the fire department was able to knock that fire down structure. That fire was a direct result of a discarded cigarette butt. Saturday morning over the weekend at 1 o'clock in the morning, the company was dispatched to Cricket Lane off of Plainbrook Road for a townhouse on fire. The initial caller reported the back of the townhouse on fire. Our company was dispatched just before 1 a.m. Time of dispatch to our engine was on the scene was 4 minutes, 37 seconds from time of dispatch. So just to put that into perspective, that was our crew that was in bed at the time to the dispatch, 7 seconds, in my opinion. We pulled up, we had fire that was up the back of the townhouse, middle of the row. It was impeding on the third floor of the structure. Our crews entered. Fortunately, that townhouse community is protected by residential. So I'll do my little pitch here. Supporter residential. That sprinkler system was activated and was able to hold the fire in check. Our crews were able to make it into the second floor, make it into the third floor. That fire was contained to that unit, spread to either unit on each side of it. Response and the efforts of the firemen. The other, I would like to give a huge shout out to the East Whiteland Police Department. Our engine got there. We had a staffing of 4 people on the engine. The officers on the scene pulled a second hand line to the rear of that structure. While our crews were inside, they were able to spray water on the backside of that structure, hold that fire from spreading to the outside. So their efforts and their helped our success that night. To put it into perspective, when we pulled up at 4 minutes and 37 seconds, it's another 7 minutes before another fire truck from another company was able to arrive on the scene and support. So the success of our guys that night was East Whiteland. Extremely great. But just lastly, if I could just reiterate to anybody that smokes, please do not discard cigarettes, whether it be flicking it out your car window, throwing it in a flower pot in your yard, flicking it in your yard, because I'm telling you, it's starting fires. If it's proven that you discarded that cigarette and you burn somebody's house down, God forbid you injure, kill somebody, you are held personally liable. I cannot stress that enough.
Thank you, and good work.
Yeah, great job. Great job, guys. Good job. Moving on to 2F, which is not shown on your program. But Steve, if you can give us an update on our latest employee.
Thank you, Scott. I'd like to introduce Marco Augustini, who's seated in the first row between Greg and Dave Grady. Marco was recently hired and started just this week on the 12th, yesterday. I'm losing track of days already, and it's only Wednesday. Marco is our new assistant finance director. He comes to us, he's very well qualified, college graduate, had worked in the private sector with some auditing firms, and most recently worked in Bethel Township for about the last year and a half, 2 years, I believe. We had a a strong pool of candidates, and Marco, we think, was head and shoulders above the rest, and the board agreed, and we've hired him. So I want to introduce him to the board and to the public this evening, welcome him to East Whiteland and the team, and then also ask the board to just ratify your prior action here in this meeting.
That sounds good. Welcome. And I make a motion to ratify the appointment of Marco Agostini to Assistant Finance Director.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Very good.
And you're official.
Very good. Welcome.
You have to bring donuts tomorrow, right? Is it donuts? Something else?
Donuts are 4 out there.
Donuts. All right. Welcome. Moving on, we will move into item number 3 with the preliminary budget for 2025. Dave Grady.
Thank you, Chairman Lambert, and I'd also like to welcome Marco. I'm excited to have him here. We threw him right into things, and since I've only been here for 2 months, we're going to be working together to figure some things out, but I'm very excited to have him on board. So. All right, so can you? Great, thank you. So first off, I'm excited to be here. Started in September, having grown up in neighboring East Goshen and playing Great Valley, Little League, and using the parks here. It's exciting to be able to prepare the budget. I think the best way to get to learn the finances of the community is to go through the budget process. So this has been a good trial by fire, if so first off, and Zach, there are no new taxes or fees proposed in the 2025 budget, with the exception of the open space referendum that recently passed. The open space referendum, which has passed, soon be certified, all the funding for that will be put into a separate bank account. So that will not be included in any of the general fund or general operations of East Whiteland. That will be exclusively used for the acquisition and maintenance of. So for 2025, we are projecting revenues are going to be up 2.7%. Expenditures are going to be up 3.71%. The reason those figures are not exactly the same percentage is because in 2024, there was a small surplus that was budgeted. This year, we are presenting a completely balanced budget with any surplus to be transferred capital funds. I'll get into the capital budget in just a little bit, but just some high-level information on that. The current draft of the capital fund, or of the general fund budget, has a projected surplus of $120,887 capital improvement fund. One of the staff's recommendations is to consider routinely transferring funds to the capital improvement fund. This was something that was done about 8-9 years ago. There were some substantial surpluses that were transferred into the capital improvement fund, which have been drawn down over the years as the township has been accomplishing projects. But this is something that we should work restoring in the future years. Another challenge that we have for 2025 is Easttown Township, which is a neighboring municipality, recently enacted an earned income tax, which will become effective in 2025. So the impact of that is going to, because earned income taxes are paid where you live, not where you work. So if where you work and where you live both have an earned income tax, your home municipality supersedes where you work. So because of that, had people from Easttown that worked in East Whiteland, that revenue is going to go back to Easttown. But since East Whiteland's earned income tax is 0.25% higher, that will stay with East. On to next section. So for 2024, we are projecting a surplus this year. It's projected to be, this is conservative, so we're hoping to actually be a little bit higher. But right now, about $500,000, which is a 0.86% favorable variance. This is due in large part to the interest revenue that we've received this year. Interest revenue was budgeted at only $28,000 for 2024, and to date we are over $300,000 interest income. So that has been a huge help. That does not include any of the sewer sale revenue. That interest is in a separate fund. So this is all just the governmental funds that are earning this. The pension state aid was higher by $53,000 this year, so a good thing. That went towards decreasing the amount of funding that the township was required to contribute as part of the minimum municipal obligation for the retirement benefits for the employees. And then other costs this year have generally been in line with the budget. There hasn't been anything too out of whack. So the Easttown Township EIT, as I mentioned, we are expecting a $180,000 decrease in the earned income taxes and related to that. So again, East Whiteland will retain 5% of that, but that is something that negatively impacted our revenue. In past years, earned income tax has typically risen as people's wages increase. So for this year, though, it is more of a challenge since it has due to East Whiteland. But we are hopeful that in future years there will be increases. We are expecting permit fees to be higher this year. There's a number of projects that are going to be ongoing. Toll Brothers, Greystar, Jansen. They're going to be bringing some larger. Sorry, Scott, did you?
Dave, I just want to clarify for the public is that under PA municipal law, we're allowed to go up to 1% for earned income tax. We're at 0.75 at the moment, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And so these permit fees that we are budgeting higher than what was in 2024's budget are a big help for the general fund. Moving on to employee costs. As Steve has noted in a couple of meetings, our biggest expense is employees because we are heavily a service provided industry in the municipal world. Wage increases are about 3.75% for 2025. There are still some tweaks to that due to some collective bargaining agreements for some unions. Healthcare prescription and dental costs are overall going up 5%. And this is something that we have talked to our insurance provider about just to get an understanding on this. This is, unfortunately industry-wide. This isn't something that's unique to Whiteland or even just to the Delaware Valley Health Trust. This is something that is going on in the healthcare industry. One bright thing, though, we were able to find some savings in Medicare costs. Our director of HR did a little bit of research with the Delaware Valley Trust and determined that the Medicare plan that was existing for retirees was actually redundant. And so by being able to change the plan without actually changing any receiving, this brought in a huge cost savings of $120,000 for 2025. So that is a good thing. Props to Naveen for doing the legwork, figuring that out. Our workers' comp costs have also gone up, kind of in line with the other insurance trends throughout the industry. So our budget focus, our primary costs are the staff who deliver the programs and the services. The budget is focused on providing high quality programs with focus on public safety, infrastructure, and quality of life. I think as you've seen from Chief Lewis being up here and Chief Yeager in the department and Parks and Rec Director, there's a lot of good things happening. So we're excited that projects will. Revenues, so I'll just cover briefly some of our larger revenue items. Real estate tax income, we're holding steady at about $850,000. This is a slight decrease from the 2024 budget, and that's just a reflection of taxes that we've received thus far and reassessments that have been ongoing. We noted the EIT estimate from Keystone was $12,600,000, but that is being decreased by the reduction from Easttown. A portion of that 12.6 is going towards the base referendum, so that's why we are budgeting just a little under where we were for 2024. We're also projecting a slight decrease for the local services tax, which I think is reflecting, some of corporate office space that has been changing in recent years. So trying to be a bit more conservative with that number. Earned income taxes and real estate taxes account for 86% of the budget. And as I noted earlier, our interest income has been significantly higher than budgeted for 2024. We are going to budget higher for 2025 at $175,000, which we feel is a conservative estimate. We hope we'll easily hit that. But, we do note that the Fed has been decreasing rates. There is the expectation that will. And as I noted earlier, we are expecting higher increased. So our 2025 revenues, this is just a snapshot of each of the departments. We are expecting our general fund budget to be $18,153,750, which is just under 3% increase. Well, thank you. Our main revenue decreases. So as I noted, the earned income tax, we are expecting a decline, the decline in the local services tax, a couple of other smaller things on there, in addition to the earned income taxes. We are the billboard lease rent, and then some of our fines we're expecting. And this is really just based on trending that we've seen in years. So we're trying to, true up some of the estimates that we have. Some of our increases are going to be our building permits, our interest earnings. We are seeing continued increases in the real estate transfer tax. So that is the tax that is assessed when home ownership is transferring. So these are some of the larger increases. We are also seeing some other life safety inspections increases, which are through some of the efforts of our fire department and fire marshal's office, as well as some of the fire marshal and hazmat permits as our expenses. Some of the big things, some of the main drivers are the health insurance increases of 5%, wage increases on average 3.75%. With the new police collective bargaining agreement, there are going to be some increases between 4 and 5%. Insurance increases, we are seeing increases of on average 5.64%. Increased part-time wages for the firefighters, and then some of the new programs, including the Dandelions Digital, social media, newsletter, things to get information out to this is our general fund expenses. As you'll see, it is balanced at $18,153,750. I'm not going to go through these. This is probably hard to see. And of course, we will have this posted on the website later this week for anybody that is interested in seeing this. Our largest increases in expenses, we do have some professional services increases, which are partially related to some changes that we have in our codes department with outsourcing some of the inspections that'll be happening as opposed to having that in-house. We are seeing wage increases, as I noted before, and I believe most of the other larger increases on. Some of our largest decreases in expenditures, and again relate to some of the wages, the in-house wages that are now going to be outsourced, the post-retirement medical insurance. We're showing over $107,000 in savings there, and then some of the other changes are reallocations between departments to just more accurately reflect where the expenses are actually. One of the things that we covered in some of our earlier public budgeting meetings was about the Malvern Public Library funding. I don't know if that's something the board wants to discuss in further detail, but as of the moment, the amount that is currently in there is a little over $52,000, which is an increase from the 2024 budget of $46,700.
We don't want to discuss that, correct? No. We already did.
I guess before we move on to the capital budget, are there any questions or discussion on the general fund?
I have none.
None.
No, I think we've been through this a few times, so I have no questions. Don, anyone on public?
And then I'll try to get through this quickly. I'm sure just to move on. So for the 2025 draft capital fund budget, just real quick, I want to provide some of our cash balances, just to reflect, this does not factor in any of the liabilities. These aren't fund balances. These are just cash balances. Right now, the general fund cash balance is at $8.1 million. The capital improvement fund, we have $9.4 million in cash. I should note that there is a net liability owed to the general fund of about $4 million, which is something, it's really more of a bucket A, bucket B type of thing. Something we're going to work with our financial auditors on. It's something that, I noticed when I started here that we're going to change, but the money is still there. We still have a pretty healthy balance in both the general fund and in the capital improvement fund, well above what the Government Finance Officers Association generally recommends. So we're in a very good position with that. So that is a good thing to know. Thanks. So the capital improvement fund, even though we are in a very good place with our funding, the capital improvement fund balance has been decreasing over the last several years. As I noted, there have been a lot of projects that have been ongoing. Money is always tight, so funding it has been difficult. I think that the township was prudent in putting funds into the capital fund in prior years to build up that balance, and I think the intention is to build up the balance further, but we are just being mindful of some of the changes.
And I'd just like to point out that over the past year, there has been movement of different types of funds. The money has been placed based upon interest rates. So we've been keeping an eye and trying to grab the highest interest rate that exists out there. So it's not been a stationary investment over the past 11 months.
That's exactly right. There's been a couple of investments with the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust, Univest, JP Morgan. as Scott noted, that that has been bringing in a lot of interest, both for the capital improvement fund, as well as the sewer proceeds as well, which again are not factored into any of the budgeting that we're seeing this evening. So for the 2025 budget, capital budget, we are looking at expenses of $5.8 million. And again, these are going to be a reflection of a lot of the projects that have been ongoing. The big thing is going to be the MS4 program, the pollutant reduction plan. The pollutant reduction plan is estimated to be at about $2 million. So that is a sizable cost, but it is something that the township, along with all of the townships, most of the townships, I should say, are required to do. Again, not something that's unique to East Whiteland, but it is going to be something that's expensive. So we are looking at ways to offset that cost, but the timing of the expiration of the permit, as well as the limit with grant funding, which can sometimes take a long time to obtain, that is something that we are currently budgeting for, and hopeful that we can offset that some way. So just kind of going through some of the projects that we have, and I should note that several of these projects, especially the transportation projects, do have grant funding, which offsets some of that cost. So for 2025, and I don't know how much detail you'd like to hear on the projects themselves.
We're well aware.
Well aware,
of
all
every
right.
single project, I think, unless that thing is brand new, which it doesn't look.
There's
Is it?
nothing new on here than what was there before. So for our transportation projects, we are looking at about $1.4 million, with revenue of just under $1 million related to grant funding for that. Our stormwater projects, unfortunately, there's not as much grant revenue that is available there. We do have a little over $3 million budgeted. One thing worth noting, and this will be discussed a little bit further at the December board meeting, is the Warren Avenue culvert. There is available American Rescue Plan Act funding that still needs to be allocated. That project has already been awarded. So that is going to be a good opportunity to decrease some of the costs that are.
Sorry, Dave. Can you back up one slide, Zach? I just want to point out one change that.
It is off of that screen. It's not off of ours.
Okay, the Route 352 Bridge Clearance Project. On our slide, we have the 150,000 on it, which we know came out, which is not on there. So we're all set. What we're looking at is not accurate. What you're looking at on the screen is accurate with
That's
that
correct.
removal of that 150,000 expenditure.
Exactly. Yep.
It was a grant funding program that we applied for, and we would have used the funds to make improvements for the Route 352 clearance, but the grant did not go through, so we pulled the project in its entirety since it's not our bridge. Or our road, you're right, if you want to get technical.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah, for our stormwater projects, I think I covered the two big ones, the Warren Avenue culvert and the MS4 pollutant reduction plan construction. Some other maintenance, typical maintenance that would be ongoing, storm sewer relining, and storm sewer repairs. Vehicles, as every municipality has to do each year, there is a vehicle replacement schedule. There are 3 police vehicles that are scheduled for replacement, 1 fire vehicle, an administration vehicle, a public works truck, a John Deere boom mower. These are some things that John Neals, if anyone has any questions, and a paving roller as well. So this is what is currently in the capital fund budget for vehicles. Some of the strategic projects, and there have been a number on the list in past years, The two that will be ongoing or three really. So the continuation of the police accreditation. So that is the Lexipol Consulting Power DMS. We also have Delta Development, which has been helpful in obtaining grants for the township. That fee is estimated at $4,000, but there is some potential that change for 2025. There have been some ongoing discussions with Delta Development, but nonetheless, they have been very helpful in obtaining grants for the township. And then there has been money set aside for the Gunkel Mill exterior maintenance, which I believe is related to some of the, as well as some of gutters and downspouts. Thank you, John. So our strategic projects are at 190,000. We do have a long list of equipment here that I won't go through all of them, but some of the bigger ones are the traffic signal controllers. This is just some of the equipment that manages the traffic signals. Even though they are on PennDOT roads, the township does own the traffic signals and is responsible for them. There's other things on here, including firefighter turnout gear, thermoplastic paint application equipment, the thermoplastic paint, which can last much regular paint. And so that would be a new piece of equipment, but that should have some savings for the township in so. Right now, we have a little over $500,000 in equipment replacements in budget. Our park improvement fund. So again, this is a separate fund from the capital improvement fund. This is just related to park capital projects. Right now, we are actually showing a negative fund balance in there. We do, however, have cash in the account of a little over $2.2 million, and some of that is just that negative balance is just due to fund liability. There is actually cash account. If you can go on to the next slide for some projects. A couple of the projects that are currently proposed are the Sidley Road to Chester Valley Trail Connector, $326,000. The Patriots Path Sidewalk Improvement Design, $119,000. The Moores Road Sidewalk Extension for $846,000, which fortunately would be offset by a $500,000 grant. Backton Hill Phase 2, $450,000 with a $100,000 grant available. And then the Spring Ridge Balderson purchase of $1.1 million with revenue of a little over $1 million funding that will be available. We also have some Valley Creek Park House improvements, $40,000. So the park and rec total is a little over $3 million with revenue of $1.6 million. Our liquid fuels fund, this is something that a simple budget. It was something that didn't have a budget in past years, but really should have a budget. So we did prepare one. Total revenues are expected to be $625,000. The bulk of that is coming from the state. The liquid fuels tax, when you go to the pump, fill up your car, there's about that 25-cent tax that goes to the state. The state remits it to the municipalities based on the number of local roads that you have in your municipality, and it is used for roadway construction. So we are expecting to have about $625,000 worth of road resurfacing in 2025. And then last one is, of course, our open space fund. So this, and passed with the ordinances that we discussed, which we fully expect they will. The total revenues for the open space fund for just the taxes themselves are going to be at just about $1.2 million. We are expecting interest to be received off that. There is also a bond that in the next 8 to 10 weeks. The bond proceeds we're expecting to be about $15 million over a 25-year bond. And then with that, there would be land land acquisition of a little over $5 million, which I think related to the funding we just received. So that should help with this cost. There are maintenance costs, and then of course the debt service related to bond proceeds. And that is.
Dave, on that topic, somebody just texted me and they were just really wondering what the status was on the open space referendum. As of close of business today, the yes votes for the open space referendum was 4,044 votes, which represents 55.64% of all votes, and no votes of 3,224 votes, representing 44.36%. Total votes on the referendum was 7,268, which is interesting in that it's very similar to Whiteland Township's open space referendum numbers as well, percentage-wise. But anyway. Donna, any questions from the public on Zoom? Anyone in the audience have any questions? A lot of accountants out there. So I guess you can't have enough. What about lawyers? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Good job. After only 2 months being here.
Yeah, really, you really stepped in and took control of the situation. So great. Thank you.
I can't wait to see next year's when he has some time.
That's right.
The surplus will be higher, is what you're thinking?
The numbers will be better. I feel it.
No pressure. So without maybe any other questions or concerns, would you like to make a motion to advertise final approval of this 2025 budget?
Well, the motion is to,
Advertise.
well, approve the preliminary budget, right? And also to approve the motion to advertise for final approval, the 2025 budget.
Correct.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passes. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just do it together.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Moving on to planning and development. So I'll turn some of this over to Bernadette.
We do the LSA. 3B.
That's what happens when you jump around. 3B. Catherine, you want to give a short overview on this resolution?
Yeah, I'd spoken about this a little bit earlier, but this is the approval resolution to apply for an LSA grant for Down East Park ADA and stormwater management improvements.
And just for everyone out there in the audience, LSA is related to the gambling tax?
It is, yeah. It stands for local share account, and so it's actually from the gambling tax revenues. So if we're successful in receiving this, then it's a 0% match grant.
Yeah, makes sense, LSA gambling. Anyway, any questions pertaining to that? Seeing none. Rich, you want to make a motion again?
Sure. Make a motion to approve Resolution 32, 2024 for the LSA grant application for Down East Park ADA and stormwater management improvements.
Second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And passes. Okay, now I will go to
Yes.
planning and development. Bernadette?
Okay. So the item on the agenda is the public meeting for the decision on the conditional use application for the Importer Barn. We had 3 hearings starting on August 14th, September 11th, and October 10th. Today is the day we're going to make the decision. Our office has drafted 2 decisions, an approval and a denial. If the board were inclined to grant the approval, I have a series of conditions that I'd like to read into the record and ask the applicant if they're agreeable to, if the board is okay with that.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
All right. This is a little lengthy, so if I'm talking fast, please let me know. There are 13 conditions. So I'm going to start with 1. The applicant must substantially comply with the testimony and exhibits of the applicant at the hearing before the Board of Supervisors, including any recommendations and/or outstanding comments contained within the township staff and/or consultant review letters. Number 2, the applicant must substantially comply with the recommendations made at the July 24th, 2024 East Whiteland Township Planning Commission meeting. Number 3, the applicant must substantially comply with the recommendations made at the May 15th, 2024 East Whiteland Township Historical Commission meeting. During the corresponding land development review process, the applicant shall return to the Historic Commission and obtain a final approval of the proposed architecture and renovation plans. Number 4, the applicant shall make all necessary efforts to protect and preserve the mature sycamore tree located at the northeast side of the site as identified and discussed in the testimony. The proposed notch-out of the proposed apartment building presented during the hearing shall be reviewed by the township consultants during corresponding land development review process to confirm that it will enable the applicant to protect and preserve the mature sycamore tree. Inter alia, applicant shall prepare a tree protection zone plan during the corresponding land development review process, subject to the review of the township land planning consultant. The tree protection zone plan shall identify the measures that will be implemented during construction for the preservation of trees not intended to or approved to be removed. Number 5, the applicant shall preserve and restore the existing historic barn structure substantially as shown on the revised plan set, Exhibit A5. If the historic barn structure is not preserved and renovated, the conditional use shall be considered moot, and the apartments shall not be permitted to be constructed and/or occupied if the construction has commenced. The apartments shall not be issued use and occupancy permits until such time as the historic barn renovation is completed and suitable for occupancy. Number 6, the applicant shall provide to the township access easements for future direct driveway connections between the subject property and immediately adjoining properties. Such access easements shall provide for both vehicular and pedestrian connections between the site and neighboring properties at 368 Lancaster Avenue and 382 Lancaster Avenue, prepared to the satisfaction of the township solicitor. Nothing herein shall be construed as granting any adjoining parcel owners any rights thereto, except as approved by the township. I do want to come back to that one when I'm done reading. Number 7, the applicant shall provide $15,000 for a tree fund to enable the planting of trees throughout East Whiteland Township. The tree fund shall be paid at the time of the recording of the land development plan and shall be in addition to and not in lieu of any replacement tree plantings or payments in lieu thereof that may be required pursuant to township ordinances, including but not limited to the township subdivision and land development ordinance. In the alternative, and at the sole discretion of the township, the applicant shall plant up to 20 3-inch caliber sycamore trees at a location of the township's choosing, provided that the township provides permission for the applicant to make entry on and plant the trees at the location selected. Number 8, the apartment building shall not contain apartment units with 3 or more bedrooms. Apartment units within the development shall be limited to only studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom units. Number 9, during the corresponding land development review process, the applicant shall explore and, if reasonably feasible, implement opportunities for additional stormwater management and flood attenuation on the subject property to assist in alleviating known flooding concerns in the area. In addition, the applicant shall, at a minimum, provide easements, if requested by the township, on the subject property to assist with with potential future repair and remediation by others of downstream stormwater pipe issues that were raised during the conditional use process, provided that such easements do not interfere with the project. Number 10, consistent with the proposed architectural renderings and sheets 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the revised plan set, Exhibit A5, presented during the hearing process, the proposed apartment building shall be limited to no more than 3 stories of residential dwelling units, regardless of whether the proposed parking is provided underground or at grade. In the case of the western and northwestern portions of the proposed apartment building, if the proposed parking is to be accessed at grade and the residential dwelling units are located above the parking as currently envisioned, then only 2 stories of residential dwelling units shall be permitted above said parking, as shown on sheets 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the revised plan set, Exhibit A5. The total height of the western or northwestern facade of the proposed apartment building shall not exceed 35 feet in height, measured from the base of the building at ground level to the top of the building roof, exclusive of parapets. Notwithstanding the aforesaid, the height of the building at the western or northwestern facades may be increased by not more than 2 feet if and only if the final design of the floor and roof assemblies require additional thickness in order to accommodate building requirements such as truss assemblies, insulation, fire separation, fire suppression, sound attenuation, ventilation, and/or ductwork. Number 11, all traffic improvements which are necessary to accommodate the proposed development shall be reviewed and agreed upon with the township traffic engineer. All improvements shall be shown on the required site plan. At a minimum, the plan shall demonstrate consistency with the transportation concept plan from the Route 30 corridor master plan with respect to required right-of-way, road widening, travel lanes, turn lanes, access management, bike lane, sidewalks, bus stops, and other features. Number 12, applicant shall comply with all provisions of the statutes, laws, regulations, rules, codes, and ordinances of the United States, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, East Whiteland Township, and any other municipal entity having jurisdiction over this matter, including but not limited to obtaining any required DEP permits. And 13, the grant of this conditional use approval does not grant any zoning relief, and the applicant shall be required to obtain zoning relief from those sections of the zoning ordinance that apply to its proposed development. The grant of the conditional use approval does not grant any waivers from the Township Subdivision Land Development Ordinance, which the applicant shall be required to obtain during the land development process. Those were the suggested conditions. And number 6, the access easements, is something that Zach and I discussed in reference to if 30 years from now you're looking for these access easements because something is being built nearby and we can finally connect everything. Those are what those are for. So those are the suggested conditions. I do see Mr. Brosman is in the audience. If the board were to grant the approval of the application, I would ask if the applicant is agreeable to these conditions.
Yes, good evening. George Brosman for the applicant is here with me as well. If the board were to grant the conditional use, that would be most appreciated, and the conditions would be acceptable to the applicant.
And also, we would forward this to the zoning hearing board so that if they were to consider any conditions, they would not be in conflict with conditions of the Board of Supervisors. So presently before the board, you can make a motion. If you make a motion to approve, I ask that these conditions be part of that motion to approve, or you could make a motion to deny.
If we can hear any comments from the public, and if there are any, to come up to the mic, or Don, if there's anyone on the Zoom. Again, if you can come up to the mic, give us your name and address, and if you could talk right into it. So
my name is Tony
Mahler.
Mahler. I reside at 17 Church Road. I was just curious, how many units are we built at this development?
58.
5.
55 now. Okay.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Yep.
I apologize. Mahler, M-O-L-L-E-R.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Um,
Thanks for hearing me. My name's Steve Barnes, 25 Church Road. Just a question for Scott. You had mentioned last about
Right. In our code, there's a conditional use that allows for refurbishing of a historical building, the ability to include apartments as an incentive to improve those units. I find that my interpretation tends to be different than theirs in terms of the number of units. No, it has not.
Cockerham was here, Glenn Cockerham, and I believe he stated it pretty well, I thought.
If I can lead off,
Sure.
if you don't mind. What I'd like to do is just comment on my thought on this overall plan, is that I love the reuse plan of the barn and what you've put together. I like the revitalization attempt on a difficult road and certainly on a piece of property that is configured a bit odd, and your efforts to work with us on trying to satisfy all the issues. But I think I differ in my final opinion than my colleagues in that, again, my interpretation of the code would reflect fewer apartments than the 55 to preserve the historic building. And two, I still have concerns with the road congestion that continues from even last summer, when the board chose not to really pursue the Clues building down the road at 310 Lancaster Avenue. Third thing that I've heard is resident feedback is against this project. And the fourth thing is that recently, we had the open space referendum. So I respectively oppose the conditional use on these grounds. Rich, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts too. At this stage of this township, with how built we are, applications like this come down to a trade-off. There are pros and there are cons in this application, and I bet just about every application that will come before us for other properties in this township, except if we acquire them as open space. The benefit to this is that it will preserve a historic structure, a Class 1. Several years ago, when I was on the board with Bill and Sue, the prior owner came before us and requested permission to demolish the property. That has to be a number of years ago. And my concern is if applications to develop and preserve this property continue to be denied, someday that historic structure will be demolished. And at that point, there will be nothing that we can do about it. It might take years in court, but I think it's worth moving forward with this project in order to preserve the Class 1 historic structure and one of the two, magnificent trees on the property.
Agreeing with all of Rich's points, there is a a trade-off for the preservation of a historic structure. The applicant is willing to not have any 3-bedroom apartments, which I believe would contribute to the students in the school district. They are just limited to 1 and 2-bedroom apartments, and I don't think the impact to the school district would be great from that at all, given the 55 units and the ratios that come from that number. So I, agreeing with Rich, believe the trade-off for preserving historic structure is worth the conditional use.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve conditional use 03-2024 for 370 Lancaster Avenue, the conditional use application under section 200-58.j to allow multifamily use as part of the redevelopment of historic property, including and subject to the conditions that were previously read by the solicitor.
I'll
Do you have
second
a
that.
second one? All in favor?
Aye.
And I am opposed.
Oh, you are opposed.
Opposed.
So
The motion passes.
the conditional use is granted. I will send out letters. If you were a party to the application, you will also receive a copy of the conditional use decision in the mail. So we will send that out tomorrow.
So,
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
I don't think we need to pursue that, right? B?
We do have, the next item is the the motion, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the I, got it. The motion to reconsider the opposition to the zoning hearing board application. It was, I believe, not at the last meeting, but the meeting before that, so I believe in September, the board had voted to send the solicitor out to oppose the zoning hearing board application. We did not reconsider, you did not reconsider it at the last meeting. It's again on the agenda. Since you have granted the conditional use application, I don't know if you still want to send out the solicitor to oppose the zoning hearing board application or withdraw your opposition to that. I will say, as I've always indicated, even if the township solicitor does not go out and oppose a zoning hearing board application, the township always has the right, whether a participant or not at the zoning hearing board level, to appeal a zoning decision. So if you disagree with the zoning hearing board decision or the imposition of any conditions by the zoning hearing board, you always have the right to appeal that within 30 days of the rendering of the decision. So I didn't want the board to feel that if they did not send the solicitor out to oppose, you still have an appeal right.
Yeah, I would.
I'm in agreement.
To approve conditional use, then oppose zoning would be somewhat inconsistent.
Right. So make a motion to withdraw the opposition to the sending a solicitor to oppose at the zoning hearing board.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And actually, I should have asked, was there any public comment on that? Oops, I should have asked. You guys are quicker than me.
Tired to see me. Steve Lawrence, 25 Church Road. Just a general question. Does the public have any recourse as an appeal process?
If you are a party to an application, I'm sorry, were you a party? I wasn't sure.
No. I'm just a resident.
Yeah, anybody who's a party to the application will receive a copy of the conditional use decision. They have a right to appeal within 30 days of the written decision.
But if you're just a resident, there's no recourse once the decision of the board is made?
If
Is that
you're,
my understanding?
People do try and appeal, but you're going to get knocked out for lack of standing.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
question. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it really is limited to the parties that have standing, which is always the applicant, the property owner, the township, and any party that we listed all the parties at the first hearing. Those
One more-
people. Mhm.
One more question. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. As far as the process goes, where are we at with this as far as being built?
Right, so this is the conditional use application. They will go to the zoning hearing board. I'm not sure actually if you're going in November or later, because there might be a change of date on that. You could always go to the zoning hearing boards, similar to this.
Yeah, I've been
zoning
to
hearing
one,
board.
yeah.
Yep, and then they have to go through the land development process. So that land development process is also in front of this board. It's more informal, not a hearing with usually the court reporter is usually here for all
Right.
hearings. So it's a more informal process, but it will also go before the planning commission. The land development plans will go before the planning commission, and then come before the board. So you should just check the agendas. It's also, as noted, one of the conditions is it has to go back to the historical commission. So it's going to be in front of the historical commission, the planning commission, and come back to this board. So just keep checking agendas and the zoning hearing board.
So in your history, what are we talking ballpark time-wise?
That would really be a question for the applicant, because it also relates to financing and things of that nature.
Okay.
But for this process, the applicant drives it.
Okay.
It's
Great.
up to them how fast or slow
Bernadette.
they want to go.
May I back up for him, just in terms of the zoning hearing board? Could you explain if it's separate or the same as conditional use? If he were to appear, what standing would he have there?
Yeah, and it
Because
really.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah,
I don't know if I understand or if he would
It's
either.
usually neighbors within a certain distance. The courts view it as if you're an adjacent neighbor, you're going to get party status, and it's usually a certain distance from the property that the courts will say, yes, if you ask for party status will be given to you. If you're a mile away, it's much harder to get party status, and the court, unless it's some huge project, isn't going to give you party status. So it really depends on the location of your property to the property that's in front of the zoning hearing board.
Right.
So if you're close, you're likely to get party status. If you're not that close, it's unlikely that you would be granted party status.
Right
But
around the corner, but I don't even know if that counts. But yeah.
Yeah, but you always have, the zoning hearing boards, these meetings and hearings are always open to the public. You can go, listen. I believe that zoning hearing board does allow you to make comments, even if you're not a party.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is not that that's the actual property. My concern is just generally that, if we need to build apartments everywhere where there's no space in this township. Anyway, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Yes. Unless George had something else to add?
I just had a question. There's also a similar item at 7A of your agenda. I didn't know if I could go home or I could.
Yeah, the one at the bottom is one that we keep on every month, just so that there's clarity on what's coming up on the zoning hearing board agenda and give them the opportunity to support or oppose. I would say it's the same. It's a little redundant. So I would say, unless the board feels otherwise, there would be no need to stick around.
I'm happy to stay.
This is an early night. And last time it was 10:30.
That's right.
I don't see any reason to
Yeah,
stick
I
around.
don't see it.
I don't
No.
see any reason for you to stick around.
So it will be discussed again.
I think we would.
I think
No,
we
it's basically the
discussed
same
it.
thing as
Yeah.
above. Yep.
Already took the
Okay.
action, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Zach, you want to move on to C with the extension of time?
Sure. So we have two projects currently that they were applied a few months back. So we wanted to just get sort of preemptive extensions to carry these through the holiday season. The first is a land development application for Johnson & Johnson Innovative Medicine. Easy for me to say. It's a new parking lot and some other facilities there on the sort of the southern part of the loop of Great Valley Parkway. That would be extended through January, or to the end of January, I should say. The other is for Penn State Great Valley. This is a parking reduction project, actually. It's an amended plan, and they have extended through the end of February. So really just housekeeping type items. Yeah, so the agenda notes the 31st. We realized that that really doesn't take too much longer, and they agreed to even a longer extension. So just to clarify again, the second one there would be through February 28th, 2025.
Out of curiosity, did Penn State Great Valley say what they plan to do with the reduction?
Yeah, so it's part of a larger initiative. They have to like revisit their facilities and see if they need the parking and whether it warrants repavement. So between that, realizing they have excess parking and wanting to add some green space behind the alumni house, they have some lawn space for, commencement ceremonies and whatever else. So it'll be just returned to grass really. So truly just removing some parking, kind of adjusting some drive aisles. So yeah, usually the opposite is these simpler land developments, but they're actually removing it.
It's a significant amount of spaces.
Yeah, I don't have the number right in front of me,
149.
but it's well over 100, and it's like well over an acre, I believe. We have the number even right on the planning commission agenda. It's escaping me at the moment.
If they ever had the need to return those, would they have to come back for land development, I guess?
Yeah, I would say so. I know it
Yeah.
seems silly, but as I understand it, they're going to be leaving a certain degree of the base for the pavement and just kind of taking off the top few layers, I'll say, and adding some soil and grass mix.
Got it.
The stormwater associated with that was approved and constructed previously is remaining. So really there's just less pavement going to the same size facilities, but it's all still there in place if they needed it back someday.
Great. All right. Thank you.
I'll make a motion.
Make a motion?
Can I do both at once?
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for an extension of time for LD-07-2024 for 244 and 260 Great Valley Parkway for the preliminary final plan until January 31st, 2025, and also LD-08-2024 for Penn State Great Valley parking reduction amended final plan until January 31st, 2025.
February 28th.
February 28th.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We squeezed an extra month out of them today.
February 28th.
February 28th, 2025. Sorry, I missed that.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All, yep, passes. Move on to D.
Yes, sir. So this next one here is sort of an informal presentation, a project update, if you will, from TriPoint Properties. They're the owner of the property at 52 East Sweetsford Road. They were before the board a few months back with some redevelopment proposals, and they wanted to provide sort of an update on where what they've been talking about with their design team the last few months. So without saying the same thing over again, I'll kick it over to Andy Hicks from TriPoint Properties.
Good evening. How are you? My name's Andy Hicks. I'm with TriPoint Properties. We are the owner-developer of 52 Sweetsford Road. We came before the Board of Supervisors this year 3 times talking about this property. Just a refresher, we purchased the property in March of 2020. The building is a 3-story, 135,000 square foot Class A office building in the Great Valley Corporate Park. Due to COVID, the building now is vacant. Vacant for a while now, for about a year. A little over a year ago, we started working with the township to explore to see if there was a way to possibly modify the zoning overlay that's at the property. I believe in July, the Board of Supervisors approved modifications to the zoning to allow the project to possibly be redeveloped. At that time, we showed a campus-like site plan that we were interested in taking this building down and developing the 10.5-acre site. Since July, we've spent a lot of time really refining the project even further, taking all the comments over the last year and a half. We also still have full control over the property and are intention is to move forward with the conditional use process. Since the board has not seen the plan about 5 or 6 months, I thought it might be a good idea to come back and just kind of refresh, just kind of give everyone a heads up that we have begun the conditional use process, and we hope to go in front of the Planning Commission in December at the December Planning Commission meeting with our conditional use package. So just as a refresher, here's an aerial of our property, the 10.5 acres. As you can see, it's primarily building and asphalt parking. This is the proposed plan that we have. It varies a little bit different from what you last saw. Big difference is that we do not have a self-storage building in the back. We made all efforts possible to try to make that happen. We ran into a few issues. The biggest one is we could not find a partner to do self-storage. When that was happening, we sort of played around with a couple different ideas. The zoning requires 3 different uses on the property. Building A was always first floor retail, but originally it had apartments over the retail in Building A. We removed those apartments out of Building A, and we put office above the retail. And then what we did is we removed the self-storage building, and we put the apartments that came out of Building A into Building D. Just to orient, buildings B, C, and D have apartments. E is a clubhouse. F is a potential optional building. It would be a gym for the residents. G is nothing more than single-story private parking garages for residents. A couple of really good things that came out of, I guess, taking the self-storage out is that we were able to redesign Building A, change the dimensions so they better suit the retail tenants instead of the dimensions of the apartments that were in the upper floors dictating the dimension of the first floor retail. So Building A retail sized very appropriately for prospective tenants that would want to go in there. Then above it, we have office.
Andy, one question.
Sure.
The last time you were here, you had a Downingtown restaurant that was going to follow you out here, and I think it was going to be on the first floor of A. Is that still going forward, or is that changed?
That's still in play, very much so. And again, like I said, we were able to draw and configure the dimensions of the footprint of Building A really to the requirements of the retail tenants. Because originally our Building A had apartments, and apartments are only so deep, and so we had a shallower building that was longer and not as efficient for the retail tenants. So we had the apartments above it sort of driving what the first floor was looking like. So in this case, by getting rid of the apartments above the retail, we were able to design the footprint around the retail, and then we just put the office above it. Now, the real, I guess, prize that came out of this is by doing this, we were able to add a very nice walking trail, so almost like a linear park. So in some ways, you could almost make a case that we're proposing a 4th use on the property, because in the zoning, it does allow for open space or passive recreation. But we're also a half-acre dog park. That's where H is right there, where the dog bone is. And by doing that, compared to our first plan, we're removing over 60,000 square feet of impermeable coverage. So this property is going to bring back significantly more green space than what we originally proposed, which is even less than what's there now. So all of H, where you see green, that is currently parking. So we really are excited about this program. We have about the same number of apartments. Just what we did is we got rid of the self-storage. we put office. I know it seems kind of funny that we have a vacant office building. The issue that we've run in with our current building is that each floor plate is 45,000 square feet. It really only divides in half. So we're looking for 22,000 square foot tenants, and there's not a whole lot out there. And right now, what we really need is a 45,000 square foot lead tenant to make it work. So we still are leasing as an office building, but at the same time, we want to move forward with a conditional use. And we think this is a plan that would be work very well and be very beneficial to the township. I guess one other thing I'll mention is in Building A, you can kind of see that we have green space. We have area for outdoor dining seating. And again, that was in conjunction with a prospective tenant for that location. Anyway, go ahead. Here's an aerial with our plan overlaid that shows what it would look like next to Arlo. We wouldn't need any additional work to the entrances or exits of the property. Our 3 buildings, none of those buildings are bigger than what Arlo already has. All of ours would be, B and C would be much smaller. D would be similar size, but slightly smaller. We're proposing 220 units, which is less than what Arlo has. And I think everything fits on there very nicely. We're not going to be asking for any relief. We have plenty of parking. We meet all the code requirements for parking. And then here's a early massing of the property. And the building where the cursor is, or closest to, that's Building A. That would be where first floor retail would be, and then second floor office. And then the apartment buildings, the campus-like setting. Obviously, when we go to conditional use hearings, we'll have much more detail on these massing drawings. Give you even a better look at what.
Are those buildings 4 stories high?
Deb, if you could come up to people in the, or on Zoom.
I have a question for you, looking at your drawing. Are those
Could you speak into the mic?
Deb Mobile, are those buildings 4 stories high?
Building A is 2 stories. Building B, C, and D are 4.
So the apartment buildings are higher in this complex than we're allowing in other apartment complexes? Because I believe there was only 2 stories allowed where the ice cream parlor, where the importer is. Right. 3. Okay. So I'm just curious as to why we would allow like bigger buildings in one area than in another area, and there might be a valid reason for that. But I'm just curious.
Hey, one way to look at it is some of the existing permitted maximum heights in the office district are much higher. So it's more consistent with some of the buildings that are surrounding it. It's also further setback from the road, probably, I'm eyeballing here, but probably more like 150 or 200 feet back from the road. Whereas I'll say the example of the yards, the one that GMH did near the old bowling alley, is more like 70 feet from the road. So you can see a similar height building almost twice as far back from the road with another building in front that kind of breaks up the massing. We feel like in the context of this specific property, that would probably not feel quite as tall as it would in other locations in the township, like Route 30.
Okay.
There's a couple more slides.
Zach, is Arlo 3 or 4 stories?
They're all 4 stories.
Yeah, they're 4 stories as well.
Just a picture from the rear. So this property is bounded to the south by Route 202. To the west, the Route 202 off-ramp. To the north, Swedesford Road, and to the east, Arlo Apartments. The way that this property sits, like Zach said, even Building A would be substantially set back from Swedesford Road, plus the way that the topography on our property would be, these even our 3-story building right now, you don't really see it until you start driving into the property because of the way that it sits on the property, the way the property sits up and down from Swedesford Road, and all the trees along 202 and along the off-ramp off of 202.
Is that landscaping on the off-ramp of 202 there to the extent shown now, or that will be installed?
No, it's pretty much. Can you go back to the,
Yeah. I can also pull
go
up the
back to
aerial if that's helpful.
aerial. That's good right there. Okay. So one of the things that we're doing is all of our development work is inside the existing perimeter curb line. So we're not going outside of that. Because of that, the property is already pretty heavily landscaped along the off-ramp, along the 202 side. And there's pretty good setback, as you can see, a pretty good green buffer. And there's also a berm. So because of that, it's fairly well hidden.
Do you need to put the proposed fitness facility in a separate building? It can't be combined with an enlarged clubhouse to leave a little more green area? I would think that'd be cheaper
We possibly could. We possibly could. I mean, that building is. We certainly can. We put it there because it's good for discussion. There are pros and cons about taking it out of the clubhouse. Some facilities are now going to 24-hour gyms where their tenants can access it 24 hours a day. Having it in its own separate building makes that a lot easier than putting it in the clubhouse. So that's why we have it shown there like that. If it becomes a real issue, we could put it back into E. But again, we are. Can you go back to the original overhead? Just want to show the amount of.
The existing, yeah.
So as you can see, it's all building and asphalt. That dog park is in that bottom or far left.
Oh, the dog park.
Half an acre of that is being taken out for dog park. We're reducing the amount of impervious coverage by about 15 to 20% from what's there right now. So we definitely had that in mind. I mean, these were things that you and the planning commission brought up was reduce impervious coverage, greenscape, walking trail, dog park, amenities. So we really tried to program that into our design.
Is the dog park really in the shape of a bone?
Can be.
Okay, I just asked, curious.
But I mean, it'll definitely be a big size because the dog park alone will be half an acre, just over half an acre.
Do you think your dog will care?
Not anymore.
Wow, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, man.
That's okay.
Rich and I, we were neighbors for many years, and
Wow. It's okay.
anyway, we do dog rescue, so we can get you another dog soon. I think that's pretty cool. The restaurant, what type of cuisine is it coming in? Can you?
Obviously, it's not a done deal, right? Because we don't even have approvals to build this. So, that being said, what we're targeting is a breakfast and lunch restaurant.
Okay.
So you can guess. If you really want to know, you can meet me for lunch downtown.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know.
Deb wants the nudies across from the nudies.
That's right. That's right.
Any other questions? Good. Okay. Our hope is we'll see you in a few months after we.
The commercial office market hasn't come back hardly at all. Tiny bit. No.
No.
Give us some good news.
We have some So diagonally across from us, on the other side of Sweetsford Road, I guess it's actually in the next township over. There's a 3-building complex over there. One of those buildings is occupied by Vanguard. Those 3 buildings have been up for sale recently, and probably within the next 24 months will be vacant or mostly vacant. So show up in East Whiteland Township, but again, it's like right across the street. So not great news. There was another recent sale of a office park off of Route 29 that sold for a lot less than it did a long time ago. So, unfortunately, the office market right now is
Those buildings you reference currently occupied by Vanguard?
one of them is, yes.
One, okay. They're over in Tredyffrin, I guess, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
But-
okay.
Yeah, there's a 3-building complex. Those buildings can be.
Those were actually approved to be basically demolished and rebuilt as one larger building, like so consolidating the footprints into one larger, probably less than 10 years ago. So when Liberty was essentially divesting from this market, they had gone through and got their entitlements in place for a number of redevelopment projects, and that was one of them. Project never went anywhere. So they've been partially occupied. Those are some of those, I'll call that more like Class B space. They were more occupied until recently, but it sounds like even those ones that have been historically have stayed a little more afloat, not as quite as empty, are starting to see some vacancy as well.
I think it's the 3 of them together. It's like almost 30 acres.
It's a big piece, yeah.
Since you're on the no, let me just ask you. You can say no or yes.
Okay.
The Vanguard movement, would it be to Endo? The Endo building?
I don't know. I really don't. I will say that. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, but just sorry to put you on the spot, but you're full of information.
Speculating on that. I really can't keep up with what Vanguard's doing. They're leasing buildings and leaving them vacant as emergency building. The next minute, they're getting rid of buildings, downsizing, and moving to North Carolina or Arizona. Not really sure what's going on. So,
If you hear, let us know. Thank you. Okay. John Matea, if you can.
Mine's a little simpler and quicker than everybody else's. For the month of November, the only thing we have on the agenda now will be the Pencrest, the tentative date for Pencrest continued zoning hearing board meeting. The property will be posted later this week. And the advertisement's already been in the newspaper, so the second posting of the meeting date will be this weekend. The notices will go out by I've already spoke to George. They're going to be responsible for re-notifying the neighbors and continuing the hearing. So
the gentleman in the back, just keep watching the calendar, or it'll be on the website if the date changes.
Yeah. Under updates, along with the awesome response on the cleanup and disposal of the election signs, I just wanted to say we didn't receive any complaints about improper posting of signs. So it was pretty controlled this year as opposed to past years when I first started. Additionally, under updates, Recently, our office assisted the police and fire departments with an elderly disabled veteran who's been experiencing mobility issues. With that, I'd like to make the residents in the town aware that Chester County does have an Office of Aging Services. It is easily accessible on the county website, www.chesco.org, under Aging Services. So if you see an elderly neighbor having issues, you can actually contact their office by phone or by filing an inquiry on their website. They send out an agent to meet with the resident and assist them in determining if there are programs available to assist them in managing their situations. We also will be posting contact information and information sheets on our social network pages. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
What's the limit of time on, I guess, the political signs that they have to come down?
I think you're going to find, Peter, that probably most of them are down. We went around and took some down that were in odd places today. I believe it's 2 weeks.
Just curiosity,
Yeah.
thank you. Also, what's the status with the friendlies?
We did notice that on my return to work after the long weekend on Tuesday, the cars are again parked there. I did a contact on Tuesday morning to the owners to find out what's going on and advise them that they're going to be getting a citation for not having a use and occupancy permit for the property.
Any update on the sheriff sale on the Pioneer, our favorite gas
I understand it was not sold.
So somebody paid off the tax?
No, it was not. There was no purchasers for $23 million.
So it went up, but nobody bought it?
Correct.
For the.
That's the last I heard.
Really?
Huh? I think there was like an $8 million actual price for the $23 million debt. Yes.
How do you incur $23 million in debt on that property?
Good question.
Holy moly. What are they, got gold under there? Wow. Okay, thank you. Moving on, if you guys don't have any questions further, public comment, anyone out there? Oh, we have some in the audience. Again, if you can leave your name and talk loud into that mic. Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. If you could.
Yeah, Carl Scherer, 22 Anthony Drive.
Okay.
I'm here to ask questions. What's the next step in addition to that order for acquiring that property?
The Schiffer property.
Yeah, so we are working on an agreement of sale with the Westchester Foundation. And as you heard, we had really great news about some grants. So yes, we had a letter of intent, and now we're moving forward with the agreement of sale now that the referendum passed, and we've gotten both grants that we had applied for. So we'll move forward with the agreement of sale.
So I guess the next question, what's the likelihood that we'll be able to do this?
Very strong.
Yeah.
For the rest of the property, I guess, will be paid off with the bond that you talked about in the budget proposal.
Correct.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
yes,
yes,
that is
yes.
correct. That is.
It's hard to hear.
Deb, were you a school
Something-
teacher?
I was a retired public school teacher of over 35 years, yes.
You could hold the mic if you want.
But I
You could
can
hold
hold
it.
Well, I was able to command 750 ninth graders without a mic, a look, and I had their full attention, and I wasn't mean. They just, you know, although I can be, but, okay, Deborah Mobile, 42 Village Way. I'm gonna reverse the two things. I was gonna start off positive and then get a little snarky. But I wanna, since I'm gonna follow up on the gentleman that was just talking about, I believe it's called the Sidley property. Schiffer, okay, an S property, okay, which has come up before. Is all of this grant money already allotted to paying for this property? Okay, so the total cost of this property is almost $2 million.
No,
No.
It'll be more than that.
Oh, okay. How much?
I don't think.
What, how can we get grants and say, we're going to buy it if we don't know what we're going to pay for it? What happens if we have like this 2 million, almost 2 million? Because I saw there was over $1 million. Wonderful that we got this grant today. There was 850,000. There was 1.2 million in the new open space. There was a $15 million bond. Like, all these figures are floating around, and we don't really have an agreement to sale. So do we have to give that money back? Suppose they decide they want to charge, first of all, why you know me, I am all for open space. Why are we spending this kind of money on, can you tell me where this property is located? I just refresh my memory. This is my snarkiness.
Deborah, it's off of, if you go down College Road, you make a left on Moorstein. It's on the very southwest corner of the township. Down Moorstein, past the Little League fields, where the horse
Southwest
farm
corner
of the township.
I guess it's south, yeah, southwest, right. It's on the border of East Whiteland, East Goshen, and West Whiteland, with part of it being in East Goshen and West Whiteland.
Okay, so it's up over the hill, like past Immaculata, like back in there. That section.
Driving past Immaculata, you make a left.
Okay.
Where the,
And how many acres is it?
50 total acres.
50 total acres. And why there? Why that 50 acres? Because it's there and it's available?
If I may, the
Yes,
owners
please.
approached the townships that had property and offered to preserve it as open space, as basically a first refusal. And we saw it as a great opportunity to preserve open space, to not be developed as it is zoned R1. And through that, seeking it to remain as open space, they donated the property to the Westchester Foundation. Thank you.
Okay.
So they're the equitable owners, but they're current owners, the legal owners, excuse me. So we will pay only fair market value for that property once that's established, which is why we can't answer your question. I'm sorry? Appraised value, I'm sorry.
The township can't pay more than the appraised value of the property legally.
But do you know what that is today?
We do know what the appraisal is. Yes, we can pay less than it, but we can't pay more than it.
What was the appraised? Do you want to know what the appraised?
Yes, I would like to know.
5.1 million.
5.1 million. All right.
Deb,
Keep working on the grants, because I have another property considered for open space.
What would that
It's
be?
actually right around the corner from my house.
Really?
That I think you could probably get for less than $5 million.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah.
Mhm. I think eventually people will just get tired about it, and you'll be able to get it.
Yeah. We have a second piece of property that we're working on right now already. So much smaller, but
okay.
But it's listen, we have heard residents' concern about that whatever available land there is being built. Okay, and we made an effort, a concerted effort and discussion, and talked with the natural land and a lot of different people on what could we do to rectify that. Okay, yes, there's not a lot of land left, but when the opportunity arose, especially with the Schiffer property, and as large as it was,
and on the other side, I would appreciate that it's on the south
right,
side.
and we did hear about people wanting stuff on the southwestern
that
part.
was nice snarkiness.
But so you spoke and we acted.
Okay, all right, and that's why I wanted to know what the bottom line on that. Just a simple little thing. And here's a concept that can be built into some of this open space, and that may have room and availability up there. I'm very curious as to why we have a regulation, and it's on the books. I've read about it. I don't know whether it's a law or a regulation or a recommendation in this township that we must separate our leaves and our yard refuse, not to include soil or rocks, and put them in paper bags and have them separately. And it says that in the township bylaws, okay? I'm wondering why it says that when our trash company picks it up and puts it in with our normal trash anyway. Like, why do we have to separate lawn refuse if the trash company is just going to put it into the garbage truck and they don't come around and pick it up simply? I have heard a lot today. I mean, it's there. I looked it up like 2 or 3 years ago, and I keep meaning to bring it up every fall, and it's fall now. I'm very concerned that we have no place. I want to be ecologically responsible. I don't want to just talk the talk. I will put my bags into my car and drive them to a proper place. But in East Whiteland Township, I have no place to take them. My girlfriend lives in Upper Marion. She lives right in the middle of King of Prussia. Not only do they suck up leaves there, by the way, and take them to their place, she can also take her bags. She took 2 from me the other day. Please don't rat her out. I had more than my trash company, and I was going away. She could take her bags to a mulching spot where they mulch the leaves, stack up your mulching bags. It's only for residents. You have to show your license. You stack up your logs of a certain size. Stack up 3 trunks, but they can't be larger than 10. They mulch everything, and you could go back at a later date and get really thick black soil for your garden. Now, I live in the village. I don't know if y'all know where the village is, but my property is less than 1/4 of an acre. I put out close to 50 bags last year. I'm like a wind tunnel for the leaves. And so, you know, I would be more than happy to drop them off. But we don't have any place to do that. So we're talking about pervious space, and that's good. We've been talking about steep slopes, and they're good. You know, as a resident, I would like to be able to be more responsible, and I would like the township to find some place for us to come and take something worth exploring, and I don't know what department would do that. And I know it would cost money, but there is that money in open space. And even if it was like, you know, if we get 1 day during the leaf cycle to pick up leaves, that's not good enough, because my lawn will be dead if I leave those leaves. And if I pile them up along the edge of the road, they will end up in the traffic. The wind will blow them over, the rain will come. You know, if there was a place that we could come like every Saturday, and maybe even in the spring and the summer, because in the spring, I'd do it all over again, cleaning out the beds and getting stuff ready, that we could come and take things like even a couple times a month. I think that that would be very beneficial to the township. I think it would set, and it's good for our kids. It's not only just teaching them. I'm not going to be here that much longer. My kids and grandkids are here. They're going to be here forever, you know. And again, I don't just want to talk the talk. I want to walk the walk. So please consider putting that in the ears of the proper committee or the proper budgetary concerns to set up something like that, especially if you've got 50 acres out there. I mean, there might be a better spot than that. I don't know.
Noted.
Good to know.
And check out Upper Marion. I'm serious.
Thanks, Deb.
Not every township set up as the other.
Yeah,
That's, I guess,
well,
all we could say to that.
Yeah, well, we should pick and choose. You know, there are very few new ideas.
There are no new ideas.
You go out and you find good ones here and there. You know, this one's fighting this kind of fight here, and this one's doing here. There's no reason why we can't grab them.
Hello.
Good evening again. My name is Manton Mahler, 17 Church Road. I'm going to make this very simple, quick, and brief. We moved into this township in 1990, and we purchased the last house, residential house on Church Road at 17 Church Road. It's a Sears Kid house. It was built in 1923. It would probably be easier for me to read this letter to you, which I'd like to submit to the board. At that point, hopefully have some objective information from you. So this is what I have to say. Dear Board of Supervisors, I reside at 17 Church Road along the Route 30 corridor. I'm contacting you in regards to the Route 30 expansion project currently being scheduled, which I found through patches. I am reaching out to you since my house in the East Whiteland historical records. I recently was informed that my property is affected by the expansion project, which includes the widening of Church Road and the turning lane added to it. The current plan calls for the taking of 5 feet of the frontage of my property. I want to object to this proposed plan before it goes to final approval, since it will drastically damage the frontage of my property. There is a pair of original 100-year-old piers, and in addition to that, a 50-year-old dogwood tree, probably plus more than 50 years old, which would be sacrificed. The tree currently provided screening for the exterior lighting from all the commercial properties around my property. The expansion plan also partially affects my neighbor Kathleen Cox at 19 Church Road. Commercial properties on the opposite side of the road would not be compromised as badly as our property would be. The turning lane is on the commercial side of the road, which creates confusion as to why our residential side of the street is being affected at all. I feel that the damage of our property is not required to gain the length of basically 3 car lengths, which is at the end of the lengthy 400-foot setback for the widening proposed. I'm reaching out to see if there is any way to make what is a seemingly minor adjustment to the proposed expansion plan to save my property before these plans are finished. Please feel free to contact.
Thank you.
With the, I mean, since we've been there since 1990, as we know, the light pollution around our area, the traffic pollution around our area, I cannot even back out of my own property between 7 and 9 o'clock, 12:30 and 2 o'clock, and 5 o'clock. I don't understand. I mean, one of the issues could be the changing of the signals so that there's a longer duration for Church Road. But from the expansions that we've seen over these years, it's drastically impacted our lifestyle at that house. Yes, it tapers in from Kitsy's Cox's Road into my property. Hers is only partially affected, and ours. Katie Markley, I apologize, the Warwick Daycare, that's not going to be as drastically impacted because they're only there till 5 o'clock at night. Commercial properties across the street are only there till 5 o'clock at night. I don't know if any of the other properties along this are even aware of the widening of these properties. As far as the chiropractor's office at the top of the road, M&K Builders at the top of the road, because they're not only losing 5 feet of their property on Church Road, but they're also losing the additional square foot on the front at Route 30 corridor. My other concern is the amount of light pollution that's going to be generated by the lighting along the walkways, pathways. So at this time, I just would like to submit this as my concern and my...
That'd be fine. Come on up.
Contact information on there, telephone numbers and all of that, everything?
Yes, I actually had tried to contact the...
I would just like to, with all due respect, Mr. Mahler, we actually met in the lobby over the summer. We wrote out the conceptual plan that we have that's obviously in process of going through preliminary engineering. So again, with all due respect, we met, I showed you the plan, the concept.
That's why I wanted to come down.
Not sure what that means relative to your last comment about making contact and not hearing back, but all I can say is that the plans are in further refinement. At the time, I couldn't say, specifically what the distance would be into the property, but essentially the concept plan shows some of the widening that's required to create a new turn lane, a right turn lane off of Church Road onto Route 30. You try to make that difference up on both sides of the road based on constraints, so it's not all on one side of the road. So to your question, Rich, why would we need to widen that far back? It's to try to make up some road width to create a lane, on the other side of the road, essentially. So,
And I do understand that because you said it's a topographic situation.
Yeah.
But really, if you look at the grade of that property, the turning lane could be put on to the other side of the residential property to do that. And I do understand what you're saying. I do appreciate you coming out and meeting with me.
Sure.
I tried to contact through the township building, through the emails, this is Wickert, and I had no response back. I left my card, my contact information with that. I had no contact back from anyone except you.
Oh, sure. Well, I will also say there's cards in the lobby, myself, Zach Barner,
Yes, I have
Catherine
them now.
Ricardo. You can also grab her card. You can feel free to contact us. It sounds like the board now has your contact information. We can talk to our consultant about sort of how we set the line, but I would just say that some of that has been set up conceptually to sort of share the impacts, so to speak, from one side of the road to the other and to try to not impact the parking on those
But my
properties on the
contestants
other
is
side.
that is that I'm the last residential that I've lived there day and night.
Sure.
I'm dealing with the additional traffic that's being generated by the expansion of the Parkway School, all the development around the area.
Hmm.
And I've had this house, I've worked very hard to preserve it for the township since it's on the historical committee.
Hmm.
And I don't feel that I'm gonna see any type of resolution or any type of compensation. Because how are you gonna replace a 100-year-old dogwood tree? How are you gonna replace all the landscape around my property that has now created a shielding for me from all the commercial lights around the property?
Sure. Understood. Don't mean to minimize those concerns. My only hope was to clarify sort of that
No, I
where we
understand.
are in the process. Obviously, we'll have more detail, and we'll be certainly reaching out to every property owner that would have any sort of impacts. So,
But since mine is the only property on that road as a resident, current draft.
I would just add too, so in terms of where this project is at, we are still in the very early stages of preliminary
Yes.
engineering. So Zach and I are the ones who primarily handle this project
Okay.
from a staff level. So, and like you mentioned, you're welcome to take our cards. This is good feedback for us to share with our engineer and something that we'll discuss to see if there's alternatives, and we have your contact information,
Well,
can
as I said,
follow
I
up
think
with you.
the alternative, I mean, 'cause what's gonna happen is if that turning lane is increased there, the backup is now gonna be to the point where I'm already contending with the cars coming off of Route 30 and coming up Sweetsford Road to get out of my own house, which I can't do. I don't have a turnaround in my property unless I go into my backyard, which is destroying my backyard. So I have no way of getting in and out of my property with the current conditions of the over amount of traffic coming from Katie Markley. I have it is now, Sweetsford Road is now the main way for all the emergency access to Route 30. So I'm dealing with that on top of that with fire trucks, ambulances, police going up that road 6:30 in the morning with their horns blowing. It usually stops around maybe 9:30, 10 at night that I don't have the sirens and the horns blowing. And I'm not attested to that. I understand they have to do that because that's the main route from the township going down. But these are the things that I've been impacted with since I've lived in this house for 34 years. And the overdevelopment in that area has ruined, the quietness of that area. I'm dealing with an increase of 35-40% of the Katie Market School alone. And that is literally right outside of my bedroom window. So that's why I'm trying to preserve what little I can of my property. So I appreciate your time and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller.
Thank you. Okay. Steve?
One of the problems I see on Church possibly I don't pay. Up yet? Buses. But I would. Possible.
Don't know either. We'd have to work through our traffic. It's a combination of a traffic engineer and police, right, to investigate whether a stop sign is warranted. It's not a state road. Church Road is township, right?
We ended up having some serious criteria revamped about 2 years ago when we had Carroll Lane and Summit and Madeline issues. So there is a very broad-based set of criteria that is forth, but you know, I don't know what else.
What would issue making that not possible?
So you would have to find out how many cars are going by. We could do a survey and a study, and that's normally where it starts. So we're always willing to do that, but just from my experience, it's unlikely that would qualify for stop sign. It's like putting a stop sign in the middle of a roadway, a three-way stop where there's very few cars coming off the secondary road, which would be Beechwood. So we could look at it. I mean, we do run speed on Church Road. We put up our speed signs whenever we can.
Back in the day, there used to be speed traps on there. You guys would, pull them in down at the school. I haven't seen that forever.
Well, you may not see it, but we are still doing stuff like that.
Okay.
So you can do it now with just one police car with the equipment that we have. So we don't need to have a whole speed trap set up. So that's normally how it's set up. But you probably wouldn't see it because they'd be stopping them further down the road. But it's a matter of, I mean, we can do enforcement, but I highly doubt you're going to get a stop sign there. And there are no more speed or school zones projected for that roadway.
Why not?
Yeah, that's a good
I've
question.
driven there. There should be a speed zone on that road. That's the main entrance. And I've picked up my granddaughter at the new 5, 6 center, and they should have another set of blinking lights.
You can talk to the school about that. I mean, that's their decision to put in the lights or not put them in. And the way I understood it, there's no buses that are going to be coming out of there. So if you're seeing buses, you shouldn't be. They're supposed to go down to Sweetford Road, out the Sweetford Road exit, and then onto Church Road if they have to. And apparently there's no walkers, or if they do, there's walkers that walk in the field. All this is, I mean, obviously I'm not there. I don't know exactly what's going on.
There's a lot of parents coming in and out, grandparents coming in and out, buses going back and forth, and everybody just needs to slow down. I know that won't help you
We'll consult with our traffic engineer also and see what answers
unless you
we can
live
get.
there and you're there all the time,
That's all we can do.
You don't realize how fast some of these cars are,
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
especially coming down the road.
Downhill, sure.
Yeah.
That's
We could do a study. And
I'm less than 400 yards from the intersection of Route 30.
you'll have to come up to the.
Yeah, I'm
mic.
getting so many complaints right now about nobody can hear anything, and it's overwhelming.
So just to elaborate on that, since I'm right there, I'm right next door to the Warwick Daycare, which is about 400 feet from the intersection of 30 and Church Road. And by the time they're from the Church Road to my yard, they're doing 35, 45. So, and I understand. I mean, a school zone would be nice to have to control the traffic from at least the intersection of Church Road and Swedesford. But that's not where the issue is. It's from Beechwood to Route 30. There is that municipal driveway there. Would it be possible to have more of a speed trap set at that location versus being down at the school as a possibility as a secondary speed trap zone?
Yeah, you could do them anywhere. I mean, the first thing we'll do is a survey and we'll find out what the speeds actually are. Most times we find that the speeds are nowhere near what some people think it might be.
Give me a radar, I can prove it.
Well, the survey will tell us exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So I
I
don't
mean,
doubt,
do you
I don't
have
doubt there's going to be some speeders there, but you know, that's,
Do you have a system that can, I mean, not as a speed trap, but that you can actually electronically time
Yes.
cars over a period of time period?
yes, it'll be for at least 1 week. And it'll tell us time, amount of cars, speeds, when they did it, how many did it.
I mean, I
It's a
understand.
very
that
efficient, I mean,
you
it's a
can't-
good,
You can't necessarily put speed bumps on Church Road. That's obvious. I don't know.
it's unlikely.
Yeah, and
Why is
since
this thing
daycare
not
is just a kindergarten, preschool, that can't be designated. It's not a town school as a school zone either, so.
I can tell you I was involved with another study and what Chris is describing is pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
And what it captures. And, you know, and I think that's probably a reasonable step to try to quantify what's actually going on there as a first step.
I mean, even just coming here tonight to come out of my driveway, I waited 5 minutes to get out of my driveway because of the amount of traffic coming from Swedesford Road up to Church Road and up to Route 30.
Yeah.
I'll just add too, we'll add this to our next traffic committee agenda and talk about it with Public Works, Police, our traffic engineer, and just try to get a sense for what some of the issues might be. We'll also take a look at some of the concerns you raised relative to your peers and the way the concept plan's set up now. So likely something that will require some further discussion, but I think that's a good topic for that committee to mull over.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah.
We have that meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock, so that it will be, we'll bring this to that meeting.
Okay, great. I greatly appreciate your time and your consideration of these aspects. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We're at public comment, right? Are we at public?
Sure, Donna.
Well, Carol Rapp, you'd like to say something? Oh, I think she might have left. Never mind.
Steady on this. Okay, moving on then, no more public comments, so we are on to consent agenda, which I will read, and if you have any questions, pause me and we can discuss it in detail. 9A, meeting minutes from October 10, 2024, October 23, 2024, and October 28, 2024. Ratify payment of the bills in the amount of $1,887. What? $1,887,320.74. The treasure report is put together by Dave. approve the proposal for Terraphase for $7,500 for Phase 1 environmental study for Spring Ridge Boulderson properties. Approve a proposal for or from Arrow Consulting for $7,100 for the survey of the Spring Ridge Boulderson properties. Any questions? If not, if you would like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the November, what's today? I'm sorry, the consent agenda as read.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and passes. So at this point in time, if we have no more concerns, meeting is adjourned at 9:03. Thank you.